It's time to pull the plug.
Yes, it's the only way.
I heard her tap her nails on the bed rail. "Doctor," she said, and her voice went gentle, like she was talking to a baby. Then it changed. It got low. "When can we pull the plug?" My heart kicked hard, but my chest didn't move. Dr. Patel didn't answer right away. Tara gave a small laugh, like this was a business meeting. "I need the insurance money now," she whispered. "I can't wait months." I heard her phone unlock, a bright little click. She sighed like I was the problem. "He wouldn't want to live like this," she added, and I could almost see her shrug. A nurse walked past the door. Tara's voice jumped up. "Thank you for taking such good care of him," she said, sweet as syrup. The door closed again. My eyes burned with tears I couldn't wipe. When Tara left, her heels fading down the hall, I forced one eyelid open. The room swam. My hand twitched toward the nurse call button. If I pressed it, would anyone believe the dead man in this bed? After the button, before the next chaos, my mind ran backward like it needed answers. Tara and I had been married 9 years. I worked as an electrician, the kind who came home with dust on my boots and cuts on my hands. I didn't mind hard work. I minded the way Tara used it against me. When money was tight, she didn't say, "We'll figure it out." She said, "Other men don't struggle like this." If I tried to talk, she sighed and rolled her eyes. Later, when I brought it up, she acted shocked. "I never said that," she would say, like my memory was the broken thing. 6 months before my accident, she sat across from me at the kitchen table with papers. She kept her voice soft, like a nurse. "It's for the kids," she said, pointing to the life insurance form. "If something happens, we won't drown." She smiled when I hesitated. "You trust me, right?" I signed because I wanted peace, because Mina and Kai were asleep down the hall and I didn't want another fight. 3 weeks later, Tara started going out more. New hair, new clothes. Her phone always face down. If I asked, she called me paranoid. If I pushed, she cried and said I was mean. Then came the accident, a ladder, a fall, darkness. Now I was awake, and my wife was pricing my death like a bill. So what proof could a trapped man even hold on to? The nurse call button made a thin, sharp sound. It felt loud enough to crack the walls. I blinked hard, fighting the heavy fog in my head. My fingers shook like they didn't belong to me. Nia rushed in. She was small, with bright eyes and a badge that swung as she moved. "Mr. Aide," she said, breathless. "Can you hear me?" I blinked once for yes. My throat burned when I tried to speak. A dry rasp came out, barely a sound. Nia's face changed. Not fear, not doubt. It was the look of someone who finally saw me. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, you're here." She pressed a button on the wall and called for Dr. Patel. While we waited, she leaned close. "If you can't talk, blink. If you can move, squeeze my hand." I tried. My fingers barely closed around her gloved hand. It felt like lifting a car. Dr. Patel came in fast. He checked my eyes, my pulse, my chart. "You're awake," he said, voice steady. "Can you tell me what happened?" I forced air out. "Tara," I croaked. "Plug insurance." Nia's mouth tightened. Dr. Patel didn't argue. He nodded like he believed every word. "We're moving you," he said. They wheeled my bed down a different hallway. A door opened with a code. 2 guards stood outside it like statues. Then I heard it. Heels again. Closer now. Tara was coming back. Was I safe enough, or was I just hidden for her next try? An hour later, I watched the hallway on a small screen near my bed. Dr. Patel said it was for monitoring, but I knew it was also for protection. My room felt colder than the others. The door stayed shut. The guards didn't smile. On the screen, Tara marched into my old room with a man in a suit beside her. She held a folder like it was a prize. She looked straight at the bed. The bed was empty. For a second she didn't move, then her face twisted, and she made a sound like a kettle screaming. "Where is he?" she shrieked. "Where is my husband?" The man in the suit, Mr. Brooks, held up his hands. "Ma'am, we can sort this out," he said, calm like he was used to storms. Tara spun in a circle, like she expected me to pop out from behind the curtain. She grabbed the stripped sheets. "This is insane!" she cried. Her voice shook, but her eyes were sharp. Dr. Patel walked into the room on the screen, and 2 police officers stepped in behind him. One was tall with a square jaw. The other was shorter, eyes scanning everything. Dr. Patel didn't raise his voice. "He's in a safe location," he said. Tara's mouth fell open. "Safe from who?" she snapped. Dr. Patel glanced at Mr. Brooks, then at Tara. "He left a recording for you," he said. Tara's hands jerked tight around the folder. Her eyes flicked to the officers. And in my room, Nia held up a phone and asked, "Ready?" Was I ready to hear my own voice become a weapon? Nia pressed play, and my weak, shaky voice filled the old room through Dr. Patel's phone. I had recorded it minutes after I woke, when my tongue still felt thick and my heart still felt like it was ripping. "I heard Tara," my voice said, rough and low. She asked when they could pull my plug. She said she needed the insurance money now. On the screen, Tara's face froze. It wasn't grief. It was surprise, like a thief caught under bright lights. Then she snapped back into her act. Her eyes watered fast. She put a hand to her chest. "This is horrible," she cried. "He's confused. He's scared. He doesn't understand." Officer Reed, tall one, watched her like she was a math problem. Officer Kim, shorter one, looked at the folder in Tara's hand. Dr. Patel stayed calm. "You said the words, Mrs. Aide," he replied, and he repeated them. Tara shook her head hard. "I said he wouldn't want to suffer," she insisted. She wiped her cheeks, but the tears didn't seem real. She turned toward the officers, voice trembling. "You're going to believe a man with brain damage over his wife?" Mr. Brooks cleared his throat. "My client came to sign medical papers," he said. "Is he competent?" That word, competent, hit my stomach like a stone. Nia leaned close to me. "You're doing great," she whispered. On the screen, Tara's sobbing stopped for one heartbeat. Her lips pressed tight. What was she planning in the silence behind those tears? 2 days passed. My body woke up slowly, like it had to remember how to be mine again. My fingers moved better. My eyes focused longer. But every time I closed them, I heard Tara's whisper, "I need the insurance money now." That morning, Nia rolled in my phone, my new phone, not the one from home. "I need to show you something," she said. Her voice was careful. She opened a social app. Tara's face filled the screen, framed by soft light and a blanket pulled up like a movie scene. Her eyes looked red. Her voice sounded small. "Please pray for my husband," Tara said. "We don't know what will happen, but I believe in miracles." Comments poured under it. "Stay strong. You're such a good wife. We love you." My throat tightened. My hands shook with anger. "She's lying," I rasped. Nia nodded. "Watch the end," she said. The video cut, but there was a short clip after, like Tara didn't realize it recorded. Tara lowered the phone and smiled. A real smile. She checked a message that popped up. It was from someone saved as D. The text read, "Did he sign yet?" Tara typed back fast, "Not yet. They moved him. I'm working on it." Nia's eyes flashed. She wrote the time on a note and took a photo of the screen for hospital records. "Who's D?" she whispered. I stared at the message until my eyes burned. If Tara had help, how deep did this go? Officer Reed came to my room that afternoon. He brought a small recorder and a notebook, and he didn't waste time with small talk. Dr. Patel stayed too, arms crossed, face tight like he was guarding the truth. "Tell me what you remember," Reed said. My voice was still rough, so I spoke in pieces. I told him about the insurance increase. I told him how Tara pushed it like a salesman. I told him how she made me feel crazy when I questioned her. I said the words that hurt the most. She made me feel like I was lucky she kept me. Reed nodded once, like he was filing each sentence away. "That's emotional abuse," he said, plain and flat. I swallowed hard. Hearing it named made me feel both sick and seen. Reed asked if Tara had been to the hospital much. Dr. Patel slid a printed log across the table. Visitor times, visitor names. Tara's visits were short, sharp, and always during business hours. "She came more for papers than for him," Nia muttered, then looked sorry she said it out loud. Reed asked, "Do you have anyone you trust outside?" "Omar," I said, "my friend." Reed wrote it down. "We'll contact him. And we'll contact the insurance company," he added. "If she's pushing for a payout, there will be a trail." He stood to leave, then paused at the door. "One more thing," he said. "If she gets access again, do you think she'll try to finish this?" The question hung in the air, and my fear answered before my mouth could. Yes. The hospital called an ethics meeting 3 days later. Dr. Patel said it was because Tara had tried to rush end-of-life decisions. "They take that seriously," he told me, "especially when the patient is awake." They wheeled me into a room with a long table and faces that looked tired but focused. Tara sat on the other side wearing black, like she was already at a funeral. Mr. Brooks sat beside her with a neat stack of papers. Tara held tissues like props. When the board asked Tara why she asked about pulling the plug, she pressed a tissue to her cheek. "I was scared," she said. "I was thinking of his suffering. He wouldn't want to live trapped." Her voice sounded perfect, soft, broken, caring. Then Dr. Patel spoke. "He is not trapped," he said, steady. "He is improving." He requested restricted visitors. Mr. Brooks leaned forward. "Is he fully capable of decisions?" he asked. My stomach nodded. I wanted to shout, but my body still didn't listen. Nia rolled my tray closer and placed a tablet in front of me. Big letters. Simple choices. I typed with stiff fingers. I heard Tara. "I am afraid. I do not consent." Tara's eyes flicked to the screen. For a second, her mouth twisted like she tasted something bitter. Then she forced her face back into sadness. "See?" she whispered. "He's confused." A board member asked, "Why did you say you needed the insurance money now?" Tara froze. And I wondered, would the mask finally slip? That night, Nia returned with a folder held tight to her chest. "We found something," she said. Her voice shook a little, like she was angry and trying to stay calm. She laid out a form on my tray. The heading said Advance Directive. Under it were words that made my skin crawl. No life support, no resuscitation, comfort care only. At the bottom was a signature that looked like mine, but wrong, too shaky, too forced. I stared at it until my eyes blurred. My hand lifted, trembling, and I pointed at the signature. Then I shook my head hard. "Not you," Nia said, not asking. I knew it. Dr. Patel came in, saw the form, and his face went sharp. "Where did this come from?" he demanded. Nia opened the folder again and showed another paper, an intake note with time and initials. "It was delivered yesterday," she said, "by Mrs. Aide." My stomach dropped like an elevator. Tara had tried to kill me on paper. Dr. Patel didn't argue. He picked up the phone and called hospital legal. He also called Officer Reed. "Possible forgery," he said. "Possible attempted coercion." Nia glanced at the door as if she expected Tara to burst in. Then a guard knocked and leaned inside. "Sir," he said to Dr. Patel, "your patient's wife is downstairs again. She says she has urgent documents." Nia's eyes met mine. "She's not stopping," she whispered. And I realized, if Tara was this bold, what would she do next? The next day, Omar came to see me. Officer Reed brought him, like a witness under protection, and Omar looked like he had been punched by life. His eyes were red. His beard was messy. When he saw me awake, he made a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. "Bro," he whispered, and gripped my hand so careful like I might break. I tried to speak. My voice cracked. "She tried," was all I got out. Omar shook his head hard. "Listen," he said, leaning close. I didn't want to believe it, but I saw something. He told me that 2 weeks after my accident, he drove by my house to drop off food. He saw Tara sitting in her car in the driveway. A man stood outside the passenger door, leaning in like they owned the world. Tara laughed. Not a sad laugh. A happy one. "What did he look like?" Officer Reed asked. Omar swallowed. Tall, muscles, tattoo on his arm. He wore gym clothes like he just worked out. My chest tightened. That matched the message from D. Omar added, "Your phone is gone from the house." I asked Tara. She said it got lost during the ambulance. I knew my phone. I knew where I kept it. It didn't just disappear. Omar squeezed my hand again. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have looked closer sooner." I stared at him and then at Officer Reed. If Tara had my phone, what proof was she hiding inside it? Omar brought my laptop from home in a plain backpack. He said he found it under a pile of laundry in my closet, like someone tried to bury it. Naya helped set it up on my tray. My fingers were slow, but they worked. The first thing I checked was email. Tara had used my laptop before when her phone was dead. I searched the word insurance. My stomach flipped. There were messages to an insurance agent. Not just one, many. The subject lines were cold. Claim process, payout timeline, fastest route. One message asked, "If life support is removed, how soon will funds release?" Another asked, "Do you need death certificate same day?" My hands shook so hard I almost knocked the laptop over. Naya steadied it with one hand and covered her mouth with the other. I found a scanned power of attorney form saved in a folder named Bills. The form gave Tara full control over my money and medical decisions. The signature looked like mine, but again, wrong. Too smooth in places, too jagged in others. Like a trace. Then I checked the browser history. Search after search. How long until life insurance pays? Can spouse remove life support? Hospital rules, advance directive. Each line felt like a cut. Officer Reed took photos of the screen and wrote notes. "This is a trail," he said. "A big one." My throat tightened. "She planned," I whispered. Reed didn't answer right away. He only asked, "Do you know anyone who would help her?" My mind snapped to the message. D. Who was D, and how long had they been building this? The ethics board allowed Tara one supervised visit. Dr. Patel told me it was a test. "We need to see her behavior," he said, "with witnesses." I didn't want her near me. But I also wanted her to think she still had control. If she believed that, she might make mistakes. Tara entered like an angel from a sad movie. Soft steps, watery eyes, hands clasped. "Baby," she whispered, and held my hand like she was praying over it. Naya stood behind her. A guard stood at the door. Dr. Patel watched from the corner with a clipboard. Tara leaned closer and lowered her voice so sweet it made my skin crawl. "Why are you doing this?" she hissed. "You're making me look bad." I stared at her. My heart pounded. Her grip tightened on my fingers. Too tight. She smiled, but her eyes were hard. "You don't even know what's going on," she whispered. "Just don't wake up fully. Let it be easy." My mouth went dry. I tried to pull my hand away. My arm barely moved. Then, like a switch, Tara lifted her head and spoke loud and bright. "Thank you for taking care of him," she said to Naya. "You're all so kind. I'm just so grateful." Naya didn't smile back. She wrote something down on a small notepad. Dr. Patel stepped forward. "Visit is over," he said, calm but firm. Tara's smile twitched. She released my hand like it burned her. As she left, she looked over her shoulder and mouthed, "This isn't over." And I believed her. So what was her next move when charm failed? Later that day, Tara returned with Mr. Brooks and a thick stack of papers. She walked fast, like she was afraid the hallway might swallow her. Her eyes darted to the guard, then to Nia, then to me. "Thank God," she said loudly, forcing a shaky smile. "He's awake. This is a blessing." Then she turned the papers toward me. "We have to handle some things," she said. "Just sign. It's for bills." Mr. Brooks slid a pen toward my hand. He smiled like this was normal. "It will make things easier," he said. I tried to read the first page. The words swam, but I caught enough to feel ice in my veins. Granting full authority. Medical decisions. Financial control. This wasn't bills. This was ownership. My fingers refused the pen. Tara's smile broke. She leaned down, close enough that only I could hear. "Sign," she whispered, and squeezed my fingers again, hard. "Do it or you'll regret it." Pain shot through my hand. I jerked back the best I could. A sound escaped my throat, half gasp, half cry. Dr. Patel stepped in fast. "That's enough," he said, voice sharp. He took the papers. "This visit is terminated." Tara straightened and snapped into tears. "He's refusing help," she cried. "He wants us to lose everything." Officer Kim stepped closer and held out a hand. "We need copies of those documents," she said. Mr. Brooks hesitated. Tara's eyes flashed. Then she yanked the folder back like it was her baby. "No," she said, too loud. Officer Reed appeared behind her, calm as stone. "Yes," he said. Tara's face drained. As she stormed out, she hissed, "You're all gonna regret this." And I wondered, was that a threat or a promise? Officer Reed came the next morning with a name. He didn't sit right away. He closed the door first, like what he carried was heavy. "We identified D," he said. My stomach tightened. Nia stood near my bed, arms crossed, ready. Reed opened his notebook. "His name is Damien. He works at a gym near your home." The air felt thinner. My chest hurt like I had been hit. Reed kept going. "We pulled call records. Your wife had long calls with him late at night, going back months. We also see frequent calls to your insurance agent, especially right after your accident." He showed me a chart of dates and times. It looked like a heartbeat made of lies. Nia's eyes narrowed. "So she had an affair," she said, voice tight. Reed nodded. "That's likely. But more than that, it looks coordinated." I swallowed hard. "Before accident?" I rasped. Reed didn't answer right away. He flipped to another page. "We're still investigating the fall," he said carefully. "No proof yet that it wasn't an accident, but we're looking." My hands clenched under the blanket. I remembered the ladder, the loose rung, the quick glance I thought I saw at the bottom of the stairs. Someone moving away. Had I imagined that? Or had I been warned and didn't know it? Reed stood. "We'll talk to Damien," he said. "Quietly. We don't want to spook her." I watched the door after he left. If Tara thought she was losing control, would she run or would she try to strike first? A week later, I moved to the rehab floor. My legs still felt like jelly, but I could sit up on my own. I could hold a spoon. Small wins. Big pain. Tara didn't stop, though. She didn't come often, but she sent messages to everyone. She told my relatives the hospital was poisoning my mind. She told our friends I was confused and acting out. She even messaged my sister, Asha, like she cared. Asha visited me with her jaw set tight. She held up her phone. "Look," she said, and scrolled. Tara had started a fundraiser. The photo was my hospital bracelet on her wrist, like she was the one suffering. The caption said, "We need help for medical costs and living expenses while my husband fights for his life." The total raised made me dizzy. People I knew had donated. People I barely knew. They left comments. "We love you, Tara. Stay strong." My hands shook with anger. "Insurance covers," I said, slow. "I know," Asha snapped. "She's collecting sympathy money while chasing your life insurance." Omar stepped in behind her, holding a bag of clean clothes. "She asked me to share it," he muttered. "I didn't. I felt something was off." Asha showed me more screenshots. Tara replying with hearts, crying emojis, Bible quotes. Then, only minutes later, a private message from Tara to someone else. If he would just sign, I could breathe. My throat closed. It felt like she was squeezing it from far away. Asha leaned close. "Tell me what you want to do," she said. "Quiet justice or loud exposure?" And the question hit me hard, because my kids were in the middle of it all. What kind of revenge didn't burn them too? Nia helped me request my bank records. I had to use slow fingers and a tired brain, but I did it. Dr. Patel said the truth often lived in numbers. He was right. When the records came, my stomach sank. Tara had been withdrawing cash every few days since my accident. Small amounts that looked harmless until you lined them up. Then they became a pattern. Officer Reed compared those withdrawals to transfers from Tara's account. Some went to a number under Damien's name. Notes were short. Rent. Gift. For us. For us, I whispered, tasting the words like poison. Nia pulled up another record. an online listing under Tara's profile. It showed photos of my work tools, my drill set, my wire cutters, my meters, posted for sale as extra stuff. "That's how you feed your family," Nia said, voice shaking. I felt heat behind my eyes. I remembered Tara telling me, "Those tools are just junk cluttering the garage." I remembered her calling my work small. Now I saw the truth. She wasn't just leaving me. She was stripping me, piece by piece. Dr. Patel suggested a supervised phone call with Tara, with the hospital recording. "Sometimes people slip when they feel safe," he said. When Tara answered, she sounded tired and annoyed, not worried. "What now?" she snapped. I swallowed and asked, "Why are you taking money?" She laughed, a real laugh. "Because I deserve something after what I've been through," she said. That word, deserve, made my hands clench. If she deserved my life, what did she think I deserved in return? Omar wanted to post everything. He paced my rehab room like a storm trapped indoors. "Bro, the recording alone will blow up," he said. "People will eat her alive. She's done." Asha agreed, but quieter. "Public shame is fast," she said. "Fast can be useful." I stared at the ceiling tiles, thinking of Mina and Kai. They were still young. They still asked, "When is Mom coming?" They still loved her because kids don't count lies the way adults do. If I went public, my kids would see it someday. They would see strangers calling their mother a monster. They would see their family dragged like trash. But if I stayed quiet, Tara might keep controlling the story. She might keep taking money. She might even try to twist things in court and win sympathy again. Nia came in, checked my blood pressure, and said softly, "You're allowed to be angry. Just don't let anger choose for you." That night I asked Dr. Patel what right looked like. He said paper trails, witnesses, the legal path. It's slower, but it holds. I sat with that. Slow felt risky. Slow felt like letting Tara breathe. Omar leaned close. "Tell me what you want," he said. I whispered, "Truth, not cruelty." Omar nodded, but his eyes still burned. "Okay," he said, "but if she tries to run, we go loud." And suddenly I realized that might happen any day. If Tara sensed the trap closing, would she flee or fake a bigger lie? A month later, the case moved beyond the hospital. The prosecutor met with us in a plain office that smelled like old coffee. She spoke in clean, sharp sentences. "Forgery," she said. "Fraud, coercion, possibly attempted exploitation of a vulnerable adult." Hearing those words made my stomach flip, but it also made me breathe easier. This wasn't just marriage drama. This was crime. Tara responded by going on offense. She filed a report claiming I had been abusive, that she feared me, that the hospital was hiding me because I was dangerous. It was like she threw mud at the wall hoping some would stick. In court, she showed up in soft colors with shaky hands. She cried on command. "He's always been controlling," she said. "He scares me. He's turning everyone against me." The judge listened, face blank. Then Dr. Patel testified. He spoke about my condition, my progress, my clear choices. Nia testified about Tara's visit patterns. Her words, her behavior shifts. Officer Reed testified about the forged directive and the insurance emails. Then Asha handed over the fundraiser screenshots and bank records. Tara's tears slowed. Her breathing steadied. Her face went flat for 1 second when she realized the room wasn't buying it. The judge denied Tara's request for any control over my care or money. "No contact outside supervised channels," he ordered. Tara turned as she left and stared straight at me. Her eyes weren't sad. They were furious. So what did a furious liar do when the court said no? 2 weeks after court, the police searched our house. They did it quietly, early morning before Tara could prepare. Officer Kim called me from the scene. "We found something," she said. My heart jumped. "My phone?" I asked, voice thick. "Yes," she said, "hidden in the back of a dresser drawer under women's clothes." When they brought it to me later, it sat in an evidence bag like a trapped animal. I stared at it like it could bite. The tech team unlocked it. Messages appeared like ghosts, drafts Tara never sent, notes she saved. A voice memo that made my skin go cold. It was Damien's voice, low and confident. "Once it's done, we're free. Just get the papers signed. Push them. The money will clear." My hands shook so hard the bag crinkled. Nia stood beside me, eyes wet. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. Officer Reed played another message. Tara's voice this time, sharp and annoyed. "He's still alive. They moved him. I hate this." I closed my eyes. I thought of the day I signed that life insurance form, trusting her because I was tired of fighting. I thought of how she called it, "for the kids." Now the truth sat in a plastic bag. That afternoon, officers waited near the hospital parking lot. Tara arrived, phone to her ear, walking fast. Officer Reed stepped out and said, "Mrs. Aide?" Tara's face went pale. "What is this?" she snapped, still holding her phone up. Officer Reed nodded to Officer Kim. "You're under arrest." Tara's mouth opened, but no sound came out. And my first thought wasn't victory. It was, what will my children feel when they learn who she really was? Months later, I walked without a walker. My steps were slow, but they were mine. The cold air outside felt like freedom, even when it stung my lungs. Tara took a plea deal. The prosecutor said it was strong. Fraud, forgery, and theft tied to the fundraiser. Tara had to pay back the money she collected. She lost custody for now, and any contact had to go through the court. Damien tried to act clueless, but the voice memo and the payments trapped him too. The case against him moved forward, and for once, it wasn't my word against hers. It was proof against lies. Mina and Kai stayed with me and Asha in a small apartment until I was steady enough. We did therapy together. The kids drew pictures of a house with locks and sunshine. The therapist said safety can be learned again. I held on to that like a rope. One afternoon, Nia visited on her break. She brought a tiny plant in a paper cup. "For new starts," she said. I looked at the plant and felt something tight in my chest finally loosen. I didn't win by hurting Tara. I won by living, by holding the line, by making the truth stand up in a courtroom. That night, after the kids fell asleep, I listened to the old recording one last time. Tara's whisper still made my skin crawl. But my own voice was there too, shaky and alive. And I wondered, if the person you loved tried to cash you out, would you choose revenge, or would you choose justice the hard way?